and welcome to Little Seams. In this project, we will be making a little felt mousey toy. I make this for my cats since cat toys tend to be very expensive in the store, and we'll get started with that here. So for materials, you'll just need paper to sketch out the pattern, a ruler to help with straight lines, and of course a pencil and eraser to help with that sketching. And for the sewing, you'll need felt in different colors. And then besides that, of course, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, and a pin cushion with pins and needles, thread of your choice, a seam ripper and pin, and I use little snips. And so to get started with the pattern, we're just going to sketch it out on paper. You will be making you'll be making a isosceles triangle and an equilateral triangle. So there's the isosceles. You'll be cutting out 3 of these from the felt. And then here's the equilateral triangle. So there's both of them. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And so now that we have these little pieces cut out, we will be dragging on out the felt in order to mark it up and trace the pieces. And so felt can be pretty annoying to try and mark. I tried using chalk, the tailor's chalk, the little rolling ones kinda worked, but I find that a black pen or just some sort of pen will help leave noticeable marks, and I'm just leaving an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And here are the 3 finished pieces, and like I said, I'm leaving in between each of the triangles an 1/8 of an inch. And so you just have to make sure that between them they'll end up having a 1/4 of an inch. And here is the equilateral triangle. I'll just finish tracing on out. And hopefully I didn't get any ink on my sweater. And here's a close-up of all of them. And with the little lines in between the triangles, we'll just be cutting along those. Just good sharp scissors to snip them on out. And so with that final cut, here we have the 3 isosceles triangles. I will make the majority of our derpy little felt mouse, and the equilateral triangle, that will be the behind of it. And here's the tail that I'm trying to sketch out while my cat visits. I think she is trying to check on the toy to be for her. Nosy little kitten, but I do love her. Otherwise, why else would I be making toys by hand? And so here are all of the final pieces, along with the little tail. I made about 3-4 inches long, and the little ear bits. And so to start getting sewing, just putting the isosceles triangles together with the pattern markings on the inside, and just going to need to anchor it. And it can be a little bit tricky because you might end up pulling the thread through. So I just find it helpful to kind of spin the thread around the needle and hold it taut so that hopefully you won't end up pulling the thread completely through. It can take a little bit of patience, but it should be fine. Here's Lila again, the little kitten. And she just keeps on purring on through a lot of the video. Well, at least for the sewing bits until she goes to nap. So here we are locking in that anchor and moving into the blanket stitch. So I'll just go from the bottom to the top, wind the thread around the needle, and then pull it through. And so it'll create a little bit of a pattern like that. I'll keep on working and you'll see a better example. And here you are with several of the blanket stitches done. It almost looks like little bits of fur against it. So again, up and through, wind around, and pull it taut. And so now we are about finished with just leaving the back open as we are anchoring the thread here. I find it is fine to just do a couple blanket stitches on top of each other and then put the needle under there and through the loop and then feed it through the felt to the inside just to hide the tail and you don't have any loose strings on the exterior. And there, with all the equilateral triangles sewn together with the blanket stitch, isosceles triangles sewn together with the blanket stitch and the equilateral in the back. And so now with stuffing it, I use a mixture of scrap fabric to make use of little bits of old projects and some plushy fabric. I push the scrap fabric mostly against the walls of the felt. And so now that it has mostly been stuffed, I'm just going to close it up again with the blanket stitch. And you can stuff it more as you go. It's just always easier to sew a seam shut if it isn't completely bursting with stuffing before it is completed. Nice and stuffed, we will move on to getting the tail attached. And so you'll want to, of course, start with the blanket stitch. Though when you're inserting the tail, you want to get at least around maybe a 1/2 inch into it. When I made the butterfly one a while ago, my cat likes trying to pull the wings off, so gotta make sure that you have a good anchor to keep it from being pulled to smithereens. And it's funny because she's quite skeptical and it'll take a while for her to play with things, but then once she likes it, she'll just try to destroy it if she can. And so once you get the blanket stitch up close against the tail piece, you just want to do some back stitches to secure the tail into the body felt, and just do that on the whole length, the whole width of the tail as you are working it in. Alright, and then when you get to the other side of the tail, just put the needle in as close to it as you can and then start again with the blanket stitch. And now finishing off with that seam, just burying the thread into the work and cutting it clean. We are done with this little derpy triangle mouse. And all that's left really are the ears. See these little squares that we cut out earlier when we were cutting out the tail? We're going to make these into the ears. And to start, we'll just fold 2 of the corners together and stitch them together, anchoring the thread in. And then you'll want to place it somewhere around the front, like where the head would be for this little felt plush. And you'll just want to just feel it out, see what works, and sew it to the body here. With when I stuffed it with a little bit of the scrap fabric, I'm trying to catch that scrap fabric as well, just to give it a little bit of a stronger foundation than just the felt, especially with cats playing and pulling on it. So it will need to hold hold up against some strain. So just give it a few good anchoring stitches. And once more, going to hide the tail of the thread inside our work. And all that's left to do is the other ear. Oh, so cute little thing. And with the other ear finished, the felt toy is finished. And so with this Derpy triangle mouse, I do hope that my cats will like, and I hope that if you make it, your cats like it too. And so thank you for watching, and see you again.